Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, we went over tips for writing a resume. And today, since there's so much information that we need to pack into how to efficiently write a resume, I decided to make a part 2. So here's what we'll cover for this lesson. Fonts and formats, resumes for the hospitality industry, a resume example for a chef, a resume example for a receptionist, a resume example for a waiter or a waitress, and then we'll take a quick quiz. So let's get started. So I talked about both of these a little bit in yesterday's lesson, but I wanted to focus more on them for part 2. Those are fonts and formats. So what is a font? A font is a set of digitalized type that is a particular design and size. For example, some popular fonts that are used to make typical resumes are Calibri, Cambria, Arial, and Garamond. A format. A format is the way that something is arranged. And in this case, it's used to describe a virtual document that's made using computer software, such as a resume or CV. Okay, let's move on. So while I've only named a handful of fonts that you can use to make a beautiful and professional looking resume, there are more than 24 acceptable fonts that you can use to make a beautiful resume, so don't stress. To the right, I've included a PDF example of a format for a hospitality resume. You can see the name at the top, the contact information, experience listed in the left-hand column, and to the right, we have a summary, your education history, your technical skills, and at the very bottom, awards or certifications that you've received. Let's move on. Okay, so now we've gone over the general criteria for making a resume. But what about resumes for the hospitality industry specifically? Resumes can look different depending on the type of job you are applying for. Remember, we learned that in the first lesson for this week. Some people can include their photo, others can include a little color, and others include only text. There's no perfect 100% correct way to write a resume. It will all be dependent on the individual person and the job they are applying for. For the hospitality industry in particular, resumes that look like those in the following slides are usually best. So let's take a look. Now don't let this image intimidate you. This is what a typical resume looks like for somebody in the hospitality industry in the United States. The resume that you create might look a little bit different depending on the experience that you have, your education, and your skills. You can find this exact resume template at the URL below or by clicking on the image in the PDF file that you have received. Now we can talk about individual professions within the hospitality industry. I thought we could start with chefs. If you are applying for a chef's job, it's important that you include 3 sections of information in this order: an objective or overview, your certifications, and your experience. You'll see in the image below that the resume objective is listed first in paragraph form. Beneath it, you can list certifications. This individual has chosen to bullet point their certifications to make it easier to read. Beneath it, you include your professional experience, such as where you've completed internships or restaurants where you have worked. Let's move on. The next profession that I want to cover are receptionists. If you're applying for a receptionist job, it's important that you include 3 sections of information in this order: an overview, skills, and your experience. Similar to a resume of a chef, but a little bit different. Because you're going to be having so much face time with clients and tourists, you have a little bit more leeway to include your photo or your headshot at the top left or top right corner of your resume, depending on how you want to lay it out. In the image below, You'll see that this person chose to include their name at the top in larger font as you learned in the last lesson, your overview or summary, your work experience in the left-hand column, and your general skills, soft skills, and professional certificates and award in the right-hand column. If you would like to research more tips and templates on how to write a receptionist resume, please visit novoresume.com. As you can see at the bottom of the slide, I have included the URL to these resources. You can also click on the photo above to go directly to the site. And last but not least, I want to talk about the templates for waiters and waitresses. The layout of a waiter or waitress's resume is similar to that of a receptionist. Make sure you include an objective or a summary, your top 5 skills, and your most recent experience. At the image to the left, you can see the outlay. Resume objective in paragraph form. Underneath it, you have your experience. To the left-hand column, you have your contact information, your social channels, and your top 5 skills. If this is still very new to you and you still feel a little bit lost or confused, that's okay. I'm going to go over more templates and more resources where you can find tips and information as you're crafting your own resume. Let's move on. So you'll remember from part 1 of tips for building a resume that I included a slide with some very important vocabulary words that you should become familiar with as you craft your resume. It might be helpful if you write each of these words down on a piece of paper and write the definition. This will help you remember them and get used to writing them out when you're crafting your resume. They are below: references, resume, CV, skills, experience, extracurricular activities, summary or overview, job description, career objective, certificate, and formal training. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, if this slide also looks familiar to you, it's because I included it in Monday's lesson as well. Most use words. These are the describing words and the action verbs you can use on a resume. Now, there are almost 200 action verbs that are deemed appropriate to use on your resume. This is just a small amount of them. So I thought I would include them again so you could continue reviewing them and find which action verbs or describing words are most appropriate for your individual resume. For a full list of powerful verbs that will make your resume awesome, click on the link that I have included at the bottom of the slide. Let's move on. And lastly, I also wanted to include the tips for drafting a resume and CV. These are going to be extremely important as you craft your own resume, as some of you might be creating one for the very first time. I wanted to quickly go through all of these just so you keep them in your brain. Number 1, review resume examples for your industry. Number 2, use Microsoft Word or other computer software. Number 3, keep it simple and professional. Number 4, include relevant and honest information only. Number 5, use power words such as the one listed in the slide before. And remember, you can check out the link for additional descriptor words and action verbs. Number 6, include important and relevant achievements. And number 7, proofread and edit your resume before sending it off to apply for a job. Now it's time for a quick quiz just to see how much you've learned in this lesson. So I'll go through and I'll read each question as well as the possible answers. So number 1, what skills do you think you should include on a resume to be a chef? I want you to list 3. Number 2, what skills do you think you should include on a resume to be a receptionist? Also list 3. What skills do you think should be on a resume to be a waiter or waitress? List 3. Number 4, true or false? You don't need to include a summary objective on a hospitality resume. Number 5, true or false? applicants occasionally include their personal photo on their resume. And number 6, which of the following is not an action verb? A, managed, B, launched, or C, hardworking? Using the information that I have provided you in the previous slides, I would like for you to complete this quick quiz in addition to the quick quiz that was included in Lesson 1. You will turn in your answers for both of these quizzes along with your draft resume by the designated due date. If you have any questions or difficulties answering any of the questions from the quick quiz, or while you draft your resume, please feel free to email me at the email address that was provided. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you for the next class.